Good morning.
How are we hanging?
Hanging good. It's sunny out here. Just coming out of my yoga session. Uh,
Ah,
how about you?
I'm in Baltimore, Maryland at my buddy's place, pretty close to the Under Armour headquarters, and heading to the farm this weekend to hang out with the guys, swim in the lake, shoot some guns, have some fun.
Nice, nice, nice. It's funny because Under Armour, I somehow always assume they are British, because they did a big sponsorship with Andy Murray, the tennis guy.
Oh yeah.
And just like subconsciously, like that's how they got on my radar. And then I was like, okay, Andy Murray is British. This brand must be British as well.
Yeah, wore so much Under Armour in middle school. It was the vibe. Now I've drifted away a little bit more of a Lululemon maxi these days, but I
Is that
still
a brand?
Lululemon?
Yeah, I don't know it.
Oh my gosh.
Lululemon.
Check it out.
It sounds like
LULU.
some sounds like some food brand to me.
Oh man. You got to get some. They make great hats and great everything. But
Just Googling it right now.
it's like it was the brand for like female yoga pants, but they have tons of
Ah,
great
yeah, 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 yeah. Of
men's
course.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know the logo. Of course.
Yes. I know the yoga pants.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Nice, nice. Have you ever tried Bikram yoga? It's like
Oh
these
yeah. Oh
heat
yeah.
yoga stuff. Oh man, it's cruel.
I think they don't call it that anymore because he got canceled for like being really touchy with his clientele. Pretty sure.
Wait, so Bikram was a person?
Bikram is like the guy who created Bikram yoga, and I'm pretty sure he got canceled
Mm.
for being like a little rapey or something.
Oh, really? See, I'm learning stuff with you every minute here.
Yeah, it's been rebranded. It's still the same poses and breathing exercises, and it's still equally as grueling. But I think they just had to, rebrand as many people are doing these days in the woke economy that is 2023.
Well, my studio is still called like Yoga Bikram Studio or something. So they do like yoga and they do like Pilates, kind of like this CrossFit type workout. It's pretty intense.
Nice. Yeah, I'm a big Pilates believer as well. So, Mr. Forever, tell me, and Carlos, welcome to the room. Happy to have you up if you want to talk. I know there's a lot of Bitcoin ETF filing action going on out there in the world, and if you have anything to add with your lawyer brain, we would love to talk about it because I'm pretty excited for the macro environment, and seems the sands are shifting a little bit.
Oh,
But
crazy, huh?
yeah, Mr. Forever, before we dive into that, what is the latest with your you were sneak peeking some changes to your
I
platform earlier this
was, I
week?
was. Well, I mean, to the platform itself, there are no changes. We just, as you probably saw, announced the drop we're doing next week. It's basically like a little fun 10K drop to honor the original CryptoPunks, sixth birthday, which is tomorrow. And and yeah, very busy on my side this week. Very busy. Gonna be next week as well. But it's been received pretty well. I mean, whitelist signups are crazy. We got good engagement on Twitter, and doing what I like.
Nice. Well, I'll definitely be participating in that when the time.
And yeah, I mean, you as a, I don't know, like a pass and a as a Genesis holder, you'll get free mints as well. So I just announced it in the Discord, but I can send you the link. So it's just giving back a bit to like already existing holders, people that kind of believed in me over the past year, really, because like it was last summer that I started this whole kind of for punks thing. And yeah, I think it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be like super fun, kind of that high supply, low price mint thing that is always fun.
Amazing. Well, congrats, and definitely picked a great day to do it too.
Yeah, well, it's not gonna be on the exact birthday, my designer didn't manage to, get all the trades together because I mean, this is a lot of work on her and like I don't know, there's like 150 trades here manually, like assembling it in like a 3D studio, and then there's like two softwares, and then like generating this whole thing. So it's actually pretty involved.
Mhm.
Uh, so it's kind of like a fairly recent idea of ours, but yeah. It's gonna be next week, and on the website we have a nice little countdown.
Nice. Well, have you been keeping up with some Bitcoin price action this week?
I have. Uh, pretty satisfactory to be honest.
Yeah.
And
The moment BlackRock entered the field, everything started popping off.
so what's the summary from your end? Like what did you see?
Well, BlackRock filed for, everybody thought it was an ETF, but it was actually some sort of trust. So BlackRock is not filing for an ETF as far as I'm aware. But the formation of this trust um, created such bullish news. Bitcoin popped up 20% so far for the week. And as a result, we are seeing a bunch of other groups filing. There's basically just been a surge in Bitcoin ETF applications after BlackRock's filing.
Oh,
So I
really?
haven't
Okay.
gone through them to see like who's who. I think Fidelity is doing one, but it looks like there's going to be a massive wave of, institutional players entering Bitcoin very soon. And by proxy, more retail investors, which,
Hmm.
you know, not financial advice, but it could potentially lead to, higher highs for Bitcoin, whether that be, in the next couple of months or, maybe we'll go sideways or down for a little bit. Who knows? It's just like trying to predict the weather, but I take it as very bullish news, seeing all these ETF filings for sure.
So this is only on the US front, you're saying?
Yeah, these are, filings, I guess, for New York Stock Exchange ETFs.
Didn't I see something with like the German government or the German bank or something?
There's there was something about a German cybersecurity group issued their own NFTs in the last 24 to
Yeah,
48
I saw
hours
that. I
to
saw.
recruit cyber talent, basically.
Yeah. I saw something like that. Yeah, those dogs. I was one looking at them on OpenSea yesterday. It was like, should I buy this? I was like, nah, I'm not gonna support the German government with my use.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm feeling that. I mean, the funny thing about this is just to see BlackRock's complete 180. Like I pinned a tweet about it, but you can see like CNBC headlines, in whatever 2017, Larry Fink calls Bitcoin an index of money laundering, and then
Yeah.
the headline, which is wrong, says BlackRock files for Bitcoin ETF, with Coinbase as a crypto custodian. But this guy Larry Fink, who's the CEO of BlackRock, so super, super powerful guy. Like he's on record now just saying some incredibly bullish shit about Bitcoin. Like,
Oh wow.
I think he's got a quote like Bitcoin's decentralization, scarcity, borderless nature, and growing adoption makes it an ideal candidate to become the world's reserve currency. So he did a complete 180, and you know, I feel like the rest of TradFi will follow in his footstep, like the sheep that they are.
Hmm. Yeah. Uh, yeah, that's interesting. I mean, they're basically the biggest whale in finance. But I thought I was convinced that there was some German government, the German bank also filed in Germany for like I
I
think
think Deutsche Bank might have did something.
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking of. That like Deutsche Bank filed for a crypto license in Germany. So I think that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah. No, I read that as well. Yeah, I mean, it's, as soon as one guy does it, the rest of the dominoes seem to fall.
Yeah. Well, and also what's interesting, and few guys pointed it out that I think DC investor pointed this out. He was like, surely this is like coordinated that, 1 week ago they tried to ban it with Binance and Coinbase, and then they lowered the price, of course, because the news just make the markets dump. And then the next week, everyone's trying to get back in, and it's like surely there's like an insider job or something here.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it wouldn't be hard to go chain digging and figure out who knew something
Yeah.
besides the big institutions. I'm sure there's some small players that perfectly timed the dip with incredibly high conviction bets
Mm.
that you just couldn't have been luckier.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's no coincidence.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Honestly, chain digging is something I would spend way more time into if I had the time. I don't know if you saw, I put out a thread. I know,
Oh yeah, you shared the Dapper
yeah,
Labs
yeah, yeah,
list of
yeah, yeah, yeah,
whales.
yeah, yeah. So that was a bit chain digging, but I didn't do much chain digging myself. But it was just kind of along those lines of smart money, and then what people do on chain. And I specifically looked at the 9 Pepe wallets that made the most money. Uh,
Mhm.
and so the other thing I found like super interesting is like I spent like half the day writing the thread, and like it got barely any engagement. Whereas sometimes you just put out the stupidest thing on Twitter and then you get like insane engagement. So it's definitely interesting to see that how engagement works on Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's definitely some weird collusion happening between these whales. I mean, we even had like the Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell uh basically went to say, crypto appears to have some staying power.
Hmm.
Like no shit, bro. It's been around since 2009, but clearly he's like in bed with,
Mm.
the powers that be behind BlackRock and literally everybody else.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. What else did I have in mind? Just escaped my mind here. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I've seen you have also been experimenting with tweeting about big sales. How's that been for you?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I took a cue out of your book. I don't have a bot that identifies them for me, but in the Zen Academy Discord, they do these pretty awesome daily reports and they'll go through kind of like 5 bullet points on big news for the day. They'll go through the 3 top NFT
Yeah,
sales and then they'll also talk about like which markets had the most or least volume between like I guess OpenSea, Blur and like LooksRare. And Blur has just been absolutely dominating for quite some time now. But yeah, I mean, it seems to be going decently well, especially when you include a picture, right? It's something people can latch on to. And generally, the things selling for those prices also just like look dope as fuck. So it's been decent. I'm not pulling like anything more than like 1,500 impressions for those tweets, but it's a little higher than like my average impressions per tweet, which is still like sub 1,000. So I guess positive.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
I've also completely automated my GMs. They're on autopilot for the rest of the year.
Oh, really? Well, I'm not sure that's a good thing. Like,
Why?
let me tell you what. Give me one sec. I have to like answer something because someone wants to like get in and fix something. Uh, give me 1 second.
Yeah, yeah. Carlo and Son of Lost G, if you guys want to get up on stage, talk about Bitcoin, talk about TradFi, talk about Twitter growth hacks, whatever you want, just toss in the request. We will bring you up on the floor. And if you're enjoying the conversation, give this room a nice little retweet, share it with your friends. The more the merrier. We're just here to talk about what's going on in Web3 and some good old fashioned Web3 entrepreneurship. Got two slightly seasoned Web3 solopreneurs up on stage.
Trying,
We're definitely not masters of the game yet,
trying to be
but
humble.
we're
Trying to
trying.
be humble. Yeah. Slightly seasoned, I think, is the fair way to put it. But yeah, so I'm back. So why would I think automating GMs is not the best thing? Like, firstly, like, uh, I feel what works really the best is the human element behind it, right? And people like do feel it, right? And so, for example, like I have a sales bot. but I tweet it out manually, right? So the bot notifies me, and then I add my little human context to it, right? And the same thing with the GM, right? When I say GM, I usually put a picture of like my day, my coffee, my life, and that there's kind of that aspect to it. And I think that's important. Uh,
Yeah. So the way I've done it is it's uh it's my voice. So I've written about, I want to say 50 or 60 different GM tweets. And I have them scheduled to go out at the same time every day. And it just rotates through them. And then I hop in and I'll like talk to the people who say GM back to me. And that's kind of my automation method. And every once in a while, like every month, I go in and add and remove some new GM tweets so that it's staying fresh.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and then there's those GMs that you like, tie together with some JPEGs, like your punk or of your JPEG crew,
Yeah,
like those,
exactly.
those,
I like to make my rounds and say GM to different kind of segments of
yeah.
my following. Like I've got all the punks, I've got the V1 punks, I've got the nouns, I've got my rock holders, I've got,
So by the way,
fellow
I'm curious.
solopreneurs.
I'm curious. Those rocks. Tell me a bit more about them because I see you posting. I'm like, okay. There's all I know is that there's these ether rocks. There's 100 of them that sell for a shit ton of money. But I don't think that's what you have. Or you have that.
Yeah, so there's e- Genesis rocks are the V1 punks of ether rocks.
Okay. And there's 100 Genesis rocks.
Well, technically, there's infinite rocks. So what happened was the guy who created Genesis rocks, or rather ether rock, he published a contract and it had a flaw, just like
Okay.
Larva Labs
Yeah. Yeah.
published CryptoPunks and it had a flaw. This flaw was a little bit different. So the way this worked is when you listed a rock for sale and somebody purchased it from you, it stayed listed for sale at the same price they purchased it for. There was no way to
Mm.
delist the
Yeah.
rocks, changing the price to an, a ridiculously high number.
Okay.
So, what happened is this one guy, I think his name was John, Discord. He back in the day went out and acquired, I want to say 87 of the 100 original Ether rocks. So the dev was like, ah, fuck, I screwed up the contract. Also, like, fuck this guy for exploiting it. I mean, this guy's like the hemp of
Yeah. Yeah.
mixed opinions on him. And so the dev went on to release a new contract 2 weeks later, also called Ether Rock. He patched the sale bug, and the rest is history.
Okay.
Ether
Okay.
Rocks popped off. Both contracts were designed to have only 100.
It's the
So
same guy that made it. Okay. Cool.
yeah, fast forward um, around last year when people are starting to uncover these OG flawed versions of different projects, people started to discover that the Genesis rocks were a thing.
Hmm.
And this guy, John, who had hoarded all 87 out of the original 100, decided he was going to, I guess, right his wrong. And so he took his 87 rocks and gave, I want to say 60 plus of them away to different people for free, literally for free. So all you had to do was get in the Discord and say, I love the rocks. I love rocks. Like you could just say anything and he would be like, what's your address? And he would send you a fucking rock. They were only 100. He had 87,
And
gave
this
away 60.
this was which year?
This was like, I want to say like a year and a half ago. It was like mid bull run craze,
Oh,
obviously.
really? Really? Okay. Okay. Cool.
So, yeah, maybe 2021. I'd have to look at the time I got my Genesis rock. So, me and my sister, who she's like super bright, Solidity developer, graduated from MIT. Like, she's awesome. Me and her found the MeBits exploit, like one that was happening,
Yeah.
and we were working on our own way to do it, but that all fell apart. Different story. But anyway, so me and my sister were like, holy shit, like we can just make new Discord accounts and get more rocks. So we each did that a few times. I ended up getting like 4 rocks, I want to say. I forget how many she got, but
Of the
they
Genesis
then,
rocks.
yeah, the
Okay.
Genesis
Yeah.
rocks,
Yeah.
the original Ether rock. And at that point, like there started to be a bunch of battles between the Ether Rock community and the Genesis Rock community, including the developer going to OpenSea and forcing OpenSea to delist Genesis Rocks.
Wow. But these are just
Um,
like 100 pieces. Like it's crazy. It's not that big community you get with that.
well, so I wrote a thread about like there's a great debate happening in the NFT space about the original NFT rock. And I wrote this thread. It went viral. It got quoted in a Mashable article. And after I wrote this thread, we had 888, if you remember him, the Sparkle guy.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
had Art on Internet, Gary Vaynerchuk, and Logan Paul all bought rock.
Wait, what?
In the Mashable
Wait,
article,
which rocks? The ETH
the
rocks or the
Genesis rock,
Genesis
the
rocks?
Genesis
The
rock.
ones you had?
So yes,
Oh, wow.
I sold one of my rocks to Gary Vaynerchuk for 20 ETH, which was about 60K at the
Uh,
and
because of
that
your
was
article.
after
Wow.
what?
Because of your article going viral.
I mean, look, we'll never know, but like I think my tweet was like I threw a rock in a pond and it had like tremendous ripple effects. And so the Mashable article, it's like Logan Paul buys two NFT rocks for like $100,000, $140,000, and the article is really funny, but it quotes my thread in the article. Um, and the title of the Mashable article says something about like quote great debate, and they're referencing my thread. So that led to a bunch of these big guys buying the rocks, and the rock floor went from free to like 1 ETH to like 10 ETH to 20 ETH to 100 plus
Yeah,
ETH.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And it was crazy. It happened all within a week. I ended up selling one for 20, and then when the floor dipped back to like 5 ETH, I bought another one back. So I'm sitting on 2 or 3 rocks, I forget right now. But,
And
it was
what are
like
these worth now?
I
Can
think
I
they're
get?
sitting at like I think they're very illiquid, not
They're very
traded very
liquid.
often,
Yeah,
between 5 to 10 Ethereum. And we have great collectors, like,
yeah, yeah,
we
yeah.
still have like Art on the Internet has some. Gary Vaynerchuk actually lost his because he he didn't realize the flaw in the Genesis Rocks contract. So when he bought it from me, somebody immediately sniped it from him for 20 ETH. So he had it for a moment and then it was gone. And then the floor went way above 20 ETH.
So wait, so the ones that you have still have a flaw in it, right?
Yes, but they created a wrapper contract for the
I
Genesis
see, I
Rocks.
see, I see. So you basically use it in the wrapper.
Right. But
Okay,
I
okay.
hadn't wrapped mine when I sold it to Gary V. He bought it through the Genesis Rocks. It's a pre ERC
Yeah,
726
yeah,
token.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
They
yeah.
had their own
Man,
front end. I
awesome.
mean, it was launched in 2017. It's like genuinely OG. But the funniest part about all this is like when all the hype and attention started getting to the rocks and um, people understood the original flaw and the value proposition and that it was truly the original Ether rock, somebody uncovered another bug,
Mhm.
which was that you could call the mint function and enter in any token ID you wanted above 100 and
Oh, no
mint
way.
a rock above 100.
No way.
So you can mint infinite rocks, like anything up to UN's 256, which is like obviously a
Yeah,
big
yeah,
as
yeah.
fuck number. And so
Yeah,
people
yeah.
started minting like special numbers, like what's a cool number? Like we'll do 888. Like I'll do 8008 because that's boob on my calculator. Like I'll do 1111, I'll do the date that Bitcoin was released onto the world. I mean, people
Yeah, yeah,
went
yeah.
crazy, but generally the lower the token ID, the more valuable the rock.
Well,
And then
the top 100 is what's really what worth.
right. So there's a channel called The 100 in their Discord. I
Mm,
mean, it's the Discord's pretty much in shambles. Like there's a few people you might even know, like some crypto punks that sort of are like high level mods in that server.
mm.
And we like we made a wrapper with a 2.5% royalty to try to fund our Discord to like do things. But it's really hard when you start from absolute chaos and true decentralization with no like authority to like really
Yeah,
lead
yeah,
the
yeah.
charge. So
Well,
the
also, it's
community
just
is
such
just
a
it's a
it's
relic. That's it.
it's you couldn't even call it a community. It's like just a couple of people because if 100 rocks, how many holders do you have? Maybe 30 or something.
Of the 100, yeah. Of any Genesis rock, I mean, there's probably thousands. I mean, and
Yeah, I
and
mean,
and
I
and the
could mint
moment
one
people
for
found out that you could mint infinite rocks,
yeah,
within a week, all mints under 10,000 were gone.
really.
like token
But
ID
but
10,000 and under
and
were all
how
taken
did
within
it
like 7
impact
days.
the value of the original 100? Like, did it drop?
I I don't remember,
Let suppose.
honestly. You would think yes, but people very much viewed the 100 as just like its own collection
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of.
yeah, because suppose the same thing happened to punks, right? You could suddenly mint punk 11,000, right? I don't think it would
Sure.
change much, right?
It's honestly like it's a slightly different version and more extreme example of like the mutant ape to bored ape effect. Did it detract value from bored apes or did it add value because there's more kind of warriors within the brand? You know, you
Mm,
could debate that forever. But I personally think Bored Ape was smart to do 20,000 mutant apes and obviously more other deeds. Like they've consistently expanded their community and the like holy grail is still the ape. So there's basically just a lot more people and a lot more demand for the flagship asset. So
mm,
I think
mm,
it
mm.
helps demand more than it fragments liquidity.
Well,
That's
so
my opinion.
I do want to speak about ape and about this how to expand community part. But before we do that, like just on this rock thing. So when the floor was about 100 ETH, right, and all the hype was there, you and your sister in aggregate were holding how many rocks? Like eight?
At least 5.
So you were like in this crazy situation where you could have basically sold for like 100 or 60 or whatever amount of crazy amount of ETH. And I just wanted to like just pop into your head there. What was going through your mind in that moment, and how long did that
Well
period
well,
last?
so one, like, I don't know how many ended up selling at that floor price. Like, we'll have to go back and look what
Mm,
was the highest sale and how many. So, like, the floor was that high, but I don't know how liquid it was, but there were
mm,
definitely sales that happened. I sold one personally to Gary Vee for 20 ETH, and then
mm,
Logan Paul paid, like, $140,000 for 2 rocks. So he must have paid, like, 50, 60 ETH, um,
mhm,
a
mhm.
rock. So I mean, look, I had sold one for 20 ETH. I made 60K from nothing. So I was pretty
Crazy.
pumped. I rolled that forward into like another punk at some point or another. So
Yeah,
I was just
yeah.
kind of like, well, like, this could be huge. Just like punks went from nothing to something. I'll take the risk and hold it. And I also had attachment to it, like there was an emotional story. I was there from
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like, not the beginning, but, like, the beginning of the new wave, and so I thought the rocks were funny, the art's pretty hilarious, and I thought it was a cool experiment in, decentralization, like, making a wrapper with your own community and trying to create a treasury out of nowhere. There was a lot of, like, social experimentation and social consensus and external tribal warfare with the Ether rocks and internal tribal warfare between the 100 and the 1,000s, the 10,000s, and great debate around should there be one wrapper for all rocks or should there be
Mm, mm, mm.
separate wrappers for the 100 and the 10,000. But the joke was like, as much as people argued about it, anybody can make a wrapper for anything. So, like, you know, everybody was trying to be like, devs, do something. But I think the realization the community had was like, well, we're all the developers of this project. There is no you do it. It's like we either do it or I do it and pave our own way, or like nothing happens and I should just shut up and stop begging people to pump my bags for me.
Mm. And so you often share these smaller pixelated rocks. What are those? They're just like a representation of it?
Like the one that's like maybe like 5 or 6 pixels tall
Yeah,
and
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
looks like a potato but gray.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's the artwork for the Genesis rocks. So part of what Genesis rocks did to avoid getting shut down from Ether rocks for any form of IP infringement was they changed their name from Ether rock to We Like the Rocks. And then from We Like the Rocks, one of the things the community voted on was what should our new name be? And they decided Genesis rocks.
Okay.
The other thing they did was on their front end, they changed the arts, and then I guess maybe somehow they were able to change the like URI image to that. I'm not sure. There frankly might not even be any art attached to
Mm,
the
mm, mm,
token itself. It might, but OpenSea does display um, the Genesis rock art, which is different than the Ether rock art. And we did get relisted on OpenSea. It was a battle, but we got delisted, we got relisted, and
mhm.
then there was actually a big Sotheby's auction. It was like, I forget what it was called. It's a series of very historical Grail NFTs. And they showed this trailer and it had like CryptoPunks, Mooncats, like
Yeah, yeah, and then
Rare
there was a rock.
Pepes,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Genesis Rocks was in it when they
yeah,
initially
yeah,
put
yeah.
out the teaser. And the Ether Rocks dev or Ether Rocks community complained to Sotheby's, told them that this was a scam, similar to people calling V1s a scam, right? And
Mhm.
Sotheby's actually removed that lot
No
from the
way.
auction, and it never, like, if that had happened and succeeded, we could be looking at a different world where the gap between Genesis Rocks and Ether Rocks floor was maybe closer.
And so, wait, what's the floors now? You would say
Well, I don't
for,
know. I'm
for
kind of walking around away from my computer, but I bet the Genesis Rock floor is under 10 ETH, but over 3 or 4 ETH,
and the ether rocks
probably over 80 ETH. Like
80.
80, yeah. I mean, dude, they're like pre-ERC 20s, 721s rather. Sorry.
Okay, so okay, yeah, yeah. So wait, Logan Paul bought both of them, like Ether and Genesis.
Uh, he bought Genesis. I don't know about the other one.
Well, the other one is kind of the more popular one, the Ether
Yeah,
rocks. No,
I don't
okay.
think he bought Ether Rocks.
It's weird that the floor price is higher, but anyway. So here's my thoughts. Like the supply for these rocks is 100, and kind of the way I see these collections kind of grow and maintain relevancy is by the community telling these stories, right? And like last week we already kind of had this discussion about that what was it, the lost Robbies? That there's only
Yeah, yeah,
12 of
yeah, yeah.
them. Those, and there's basically, so the supply is 12, right? And they might be super expensive if the holder base is so small that there's not enough kind of word of mouth marketing power. And that's why I see like 10,000 as a number, like 10,000 punks, so powerful, because it's not like insanely huge, like 100,000 or a million, that it kind of loses kind of its uniqueness. But it's also not small enough that you still have enough people telling the story, right? CryptoPunk
Right.
every day on Twitter. So this 10,000 is like this magical number that I don't know, Larva Labs just hit with a jackpot, that is just perfect for this type of kind of NFT collection. And then you think of, like, let's say autoglyphs, right? There's 500 of them. Well, you don't see very many autoglyphs over my timeline, right?
Right.
You have fidenzas. All right, that's a bit better. There's like 1,000. But really the sweet spot lies around 10,000, like very active, engaged community around 10,000. And then 20,000 and above is just way too much, like at the moment with the current kind of market situation.
Totally. I mean, I think we'll eventually see it, but everything is kind of around that 10,000 mark for just like cultural reasons with CryptoPunks. But I hope we do see much bigger communities because frankly, I think that's a big part of
Yeah.
mainstream adoption. There are much bigger communities in the world. CryptoPunks, I think last I checked, were at like under 4,000, but over 3,300 or 3,500 holders, like unique wallets that hold the 10,000 punks. That's like a pretty small global community relative to many, many other things. But the larger you get, like you lose exclusivity, but there's also strength in numbers.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we
yeah.
haven't
Well,
seen. I'd be
I
interested
was
to see what is the largest NFT project by unique holders.
well, it's probably some Yuga Lab stuff, because other side, right? There's 100K of those, of the other
Right.
deeds.
Right.
And I mean, I was surprised for the longest time ever that that thing held one ETH floor, right?
Hmm.
And then now you have, what do you have? You have those heavy metal stuff, which the sewer pass and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm losing track of all this, but
I've
yeah, I mean,
lost the plot with them pretty hard.
yeah. So maybe let's speak a bit about Bored
But
Apes
by the way,
and
before we
Yuga.
do that, Ether Rock floor is 299 ETH on OpenSea.
No way. So what was the last sale?
Last sale.
Because I think that's more indicative.
One
And
year
when?
ago, last
Oh,
sale was 100 ETH. And around the same time, there was one for 289 ETH.
Wait, so the last sale was 1 year ago.
Yeah, that's
So
on the wrapped collection on OpenSea for Ether Rocks. So I don't
it's
know what the last trade is on the unwrapped. The floor on OpenSea for Genesis Rocks is 4.8 ETH. And the last sale was 4 months ago for 4.2 ETH. And before that, 6.7 ETH 5 months ago. So
mm,
um, by that measure, Genesis Rocks are more liquid than Ether Rocks, but that's just by nature of them being.
mm, mm.
Uh,
So could one argue that having an Ether rock in a collection is like part of this, I don't know, OG collector status? Like it
oh,
really
100% I
okay.
think. I mean, dude, it's a pre ERC 721 token
But
from
so
2017,
is yours. So is yours, isn't it?
the Genesis Rock.
Yeah,
Yeah, the Genesis Rocks predate the Ether Rocks by 2 weeks.
exactly. But they have a bug in it. So
Yeah, I pinned the thread that I wrote about it that like popped off. If you ever want to read it, it that's the one that's quoted in a Mashable article. And then I'm also going to pin this tweet from Logan Paul where he basically, yeah, he spent 60K and 95K to
oh my
buy
god.
his rocks.
But wait,
Rock
Genesis
65 to Rock
rocks.
68.
Genesis rocks.
Correct.
So but so Gary V and Logan Paul, they bought Genesis rocks. But so
Yes.
why is Ether Rock then so high? Who is buying the Ether Rocks, right?
Well, it's kind of like it, what famous people have bought V1 punks, but V2s, quote, like, are still the predominant one. It's social consensus around which one is the quote real
Yeah.
one, which is it's a funny thing. You think social
Yeah.
consensus would switch to the first one, but obviously that's not the case with punks. And it's obviously not the case with um, these rocks. It's a
Well,
really
also if you
fascinating
think
thing.
of Ethereum Classic and Ethereum what we have today, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. People put a lot of weight in what the creator says is I think the takeaway, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
And people don't like broken things.
yeah. True. Also true. Also
So what
true.
were you
Also
gonna say
true.
about apes?
Well. So I'm actually going to put out a tweet maybe later today, and asking people at what price are they going to buy a Bored Ape. And so
What
I
price are
ask
you
you,
gonna buy a board ape? I'll buy a board ape when it goes below the Genesis Rocks floor. So once the board ape is under 4.8 ETH, I will purchase one.
all right. Well, so I was actually having exactly this debate yesterday with Phantom. So I mean, that guy is not very much into apes at all. He thinks they're all going to zero. I tend not to really agree, but so here was my thinking. With Blend,
Yeah,
you can buy punks or apes with like only putting in
$0.
yeah, just a couple of ETH, right? You could put in let's say a Bored Ape is at 35. You could buy an ape with 5 ETH and just borrow 35, borrow 30, right?
And it's at like 0% interest too,
Yeah,
right?
it's at zero exactly. It's at 0% interest because they're getting paid with the token they're farming, right?
Right. So the
And
people lending the money are getting paid in like basically a form of liquidity mining kind of thing.
yes, well, in Blur tokens, but they don't know really how much they're getting paid. It's kind of like weird, but
Right.
you get 0% on that. So I'm thinking of this potential flip. I'm not sure I'm going to do it, but like 40, 40 is like this mental barrier, right? Also with punks, like every 10 ETH is like this mental barrier, right? If punks dip below 50 or if apes dip below 40, it's like, oh, suddenly like the price starts with a different number, right? Like
Yeah.
3.99 or something like that. And so I'm thinking that they might shoot down. There might be like a cascade liquidation down to, I don't know, 36, 37. I mean, now they're currently at 38. But if there's a cascade liquidation that like spikes downwards, right? Let's say to 36 or 35, I think it could be really interesting. And hear me out. Let's say they go down to 35, right? It could
Yep.
be really interesting to pick one up using Blend, putting in 6 ETH and borrowing 29. And so then you have 6 ETH on the line, right? You are risking 6 ETH, but then you have the upside if they go back to 40, right?
But if the price continues to go down,
So
then you
if the
just
price,
you
exactly.
lose the JPEG and potentially your capital, right?
Well, you only lose, yeah, well, your capital, but you get liquidated if it goes, uh, like in my case, down to 29, right? Because I buy the ape at 35 floor,
Right.
and I put in 6 ETH from my own money, right? So I basically have 6 ETH of kind of room for it to still go down,
Right.
and not get liquidated.
Yeah.
It's just
I mean,
it's
honestly, it's just like if you can time the dip with your own money or a leverage position, that's epic. But yeah, I mean the risk is that it just goes down. But yeah, you have less at risk,
but
which is
then the
cool.
question is, do we see apes at 29, right? Like within, like, let's say apes are at 35 tomorrow and we wake up. Do you think like they're going straight to 29 afterwards? Like maybe, but I think it's
Maybe. I mean,
more
honestly,
likely not.
like I would have the same opinion as that guy who said they're going to zero. Uh, but I don't, just for the simple reason that Yuga Labs has very much put this space on the map. They very much pioneered commercial rights for NFT, which frankly, I'm not the biggest fan of commercial rights for NFT because I think they're not that Web3, but I think they have a place. But I think most importantly, like they literally bought fucking CryptoPunks, and so that will be what keeps them from dying. And if they do die, I think it's impossible for them to take punks with them to the grave. So that's why I would personally just rather hold punks than apes. But I don't think apes could ever go to zero, like
Well,
truly.
I mean, zero is definitely not, but already if they go into the tens or the 15s, I think that would be pretty disappointing for the whole space. But so the scenario I described is more like a degen flip rather than a long-term directional bet. Like long term, I wouldn't hold apes, no. So
Yeah. I mean, that company has so much in there. I think they're a long ways away from failing, as it were. They have so much money in the bank and so much they haven't shared with us that, for apes to go, I think sub 20, like that company literally would have to fail.
yeah. I mean, there's so much there's enough culture there to hold those, I think, at a
It's
certain.
kind of like nouns in the nouns treasury. Like nouns price can only go so low based on the proportionate value of the treasury as a whole.
Mm,
In this
yeah.
instance, the treasury is Yuga Labs, war chests, and all the centralized things that they do to provide value to their tokens. And especially with the conferences coming up, man, like obviously you're gonna throw a fucking banger at Art Basel. And what's gonna be interesting to see is, 2 years ago, everybody was throwing Ragers because it was the middle of the bull market. Last Art Basel, like last fall, winter, there were still quite a few bangers. But I think not everybody has survived, and very few new entrants have been able to pull in a lot of funding. So, while a few years ago there was more capacity at parties than there were people, like there were banger parties that were empty, ghost rooms. I think
Mhm.
this year, like there will be a closer ratio. Like it'll be harder to get into parties, is my hunch, which will make the parties that are killer that much more special and powerful, which will trickle down to like floor price movement. And I'm
Mm.
sure Bored Ape is going to throw probably the best party at Park Plaza this year.
Yep. Yeah, well, let's see. Let's see. Uh,
Are you going to go to that, by the way, or not?
but that's in Miami, no? Or where is it? In the
It's in
States?
Miami. I want to say December this year. I'd have to look.
Well, currently my stance is no. Not planning to come to the States this year, but who knows? Like maybe I'll pop over. I'll do definitely all things Europe, but I think in the winter I'm planning to be in Asia. That's kind of my current thinking.
Well,
Or like,
if you need a satellite home in the States, you can always crash at my place in Nashville. It's
uh,
very big. You can make it your HQ while you bop
really?
around North America and Mexico and Canada and South America. It can be your staging ground.
Well, thank you very much, and then we can like do these spaces like live together.
Exactly.
There's one more thing that just popped to mind. I don't know if you saw Paulie. He had a tweet about Bored Apes a couple of days ago about uh, uh, that there's because in Bored Apes the background color is a trait,
Right.
and so there's a bunch of apes that are exactly identical except for the background color.
Okay. Similar
And
to
it
punks that are identical, but with only a different skin shade.
Well, yeah, but they're not. Those are different, right? Because the color is different. These
Sure.
apes, they're like exactly identical
Right.
except for the background color. And it's not just a few. There's like 100 and I think he said 102 apes. So it's like 1% of the whole collection.
Like, would that if there was an ape with two different background colors, would that count as two in the 100?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But so point being is that in terms of IP rights, right? Imagine you own this ape, right?
Right.
But then and then you put it on your coffee brand or whatever, right?
Right.
And then there's this other guy who owns exactly the same thing, just with a different background color, but he actually owns it. So it's not like a derivative or a V1 or a slightly different skin tone.
I
No, it's
guess they both
exactly the
have the
same
right
thing.
to it.
Well, it's weird. I don't know. Like I found this tweet quite funny because I didn't pay attention to it till I saw it.
I mean, that motherfucker's always trying to stir the pot, but he hasn't.
Yeah. Yeah, that guy's crazy. So for example, Quit, OX Quit, he's like
Yeah. Legend.
yeah, I mean, yeah, he's a legend, right? His ape is one of the 102, right? So there's another identical ape that looks just like his with a different background color. And by the way, OX Quit, he's a brand at this point, right? He's very recognizable on Twitter. He has like 70K followers.
Oh,
Like he's a persona. But you could buy the other ape, which is exactly like his, just with a different background color. And that's why I love punks, because the background color is not a trait.
right. Yeah. Yeah, that's
And,
true. I
and you
love
can
the
call
punk blue. I've grown to really love the punk blue.
Yeah, it sticks to you. But then you can combine it with like other backgrounds, right? Like I don't know, a sedenza or whatever you want.
Mhm. I really like the Utes color palette too. We got a Ute in the room, but they've done a pretty good job with that color palette, in my opinion. It's very multifaceted versus the kind of standard, you know, neon like dark color, neon blue palette that
Mhm.
everybody seems to use and including myself.
Yeah. I don't know. Blue is just calm. It's calm on the eye.
I'm definitely team blue over team red.
Yeah. Well, listen, Valko, should we call it a day? I'm just getting home. I have things to do.
Yeah, me too. I'm
And
sort of half eating breakfast right now, and I don't want the chewing sounds of my mouth to be recorded for the entire world to hear for eternity.
well, man, this was super fun. Like this rock story, I love it. Like it should be told more. And now I feel like I'm definitely knowing more.
Yeah, get yourself a rock, and then we'll start shouting the story for everyone to hear, and then we'll sell our rocks and fud them.
Yeah. We'll like dump on them.
Yeah, yeah. I'll send you the Mashable article so you can see my peak greatness.
All right, yeah. I'm just like saving these threads over here. Logan Paul, crazy. All right, buddy. Take care and Speak to you soon.
Yeah, man. Cheers. Thanks everybody for joining. Hopefully we'll see you next Monday, same time. And if you guys want to make sure you don't miss any of these, definitely click follow on Punk's Roundtable, and all the recordings are on YouTube as well for those who want to listen to historical recordings. All right. Cheers.